Hi everyone, this is Hunter, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's take a break from the noisy world for a little bit. And the world is kind of noisy, isn't it? We autistic people have a complex relationship with sound. It can bring us the greatest joy and also the greatest frustration. I remember as a kid in school in the 70s, they introduced the concept of noise pollution, and I was always fascinated with that term. And noise pollution and trying to do something about it, it was starting to gain some traction and some momentum, which makes you wonder what happened if everybody just gave up. Now, this here is a Ninja brand smoothie maker blender. Now, you know how in Japan, ninjas are all silent? Yeah, well, if you live in Europe and you're watching this right now, that loud noise you heard yesterday, that was me turning that thing on here in Tennessee. Now, that's a good example of how sound can sometimes be unpleasant. Now, behind me is my piano. Unlike that old Ninja over there, this piano can sound kind of good, sometimes even when I play it. This is a good example of how sound can sometimes be pleasant. Don't you just adore that honking sound or sometimes the weird chirping sound that comes out of a car, out of the security system when somebody uses their key fob to lock the doors? Who invented that? Who thought that was a good idea? And I like these little Mitsubishis and Hondas where the exhaust system has been modified so that the car sounds like a little lawnmower. Or how about a TV or movie where somebody's telephone is ringing, or somebody's knocking on their door, or somebody's ringing the doorbell? Don't you just love sitting there for a second and wondering if that's your own telephone or your own door? Loud sounds can be hard. I think the loudest sound I ever experienced was going to the drag races in Bristol, Tennessee with my dad when I was a kid. Good Lord. Those dragsters were so loud. I thought I was in the middle of a volcano erupting, except louder. And back then, the stands, the seats were just made out of concrete, and I swear that concrete shook. I remember instead of sitting there watching the race, I got up and walked around the whole time, and looking back, it was probably me trying to get regulated. You see here in this picture that Billy the Kid went up against Superfly. Now I have to laugh imagining Dad even knowing about Superfly, but I guess he did since he took this picture. Now oddly, loud sounds can sometimes be okay. Right next door to the Bristol Dragway was Bristol Motor Speedway, where they had NASCAR races. And I went there a lot when I was a kid, and I've been there several times as an adult. And even though these races are loud, they don't sound like eruptions or explosions, and it's a constant noise that stays at the same level the entire time. So strangely, that doesn't bother me too much, and it helps that cars are a special interest of mine. And I don't mind loud sounds too terribly much if I'm the one controlling them. Sometimes I like my music loud, but only if it's music that I choose and I'm the one controlling it. But even in these situations, I always consider other people and don't impose on them. Like I don't crank up music if other people are around or if they can hear it without them wanting to. The second loudest thing I ever heard was Brian May's guitar when I saw Queen in concert. I saw Queen when Freddie Mercury was still alive. It was my very first rock concert, and when I heard that first guitar chord, I couldn't believe how ear-splittingly loud it was. and I wondered how my ears were going to survive another hour and a half. But it was a great concert, and there were no surprise sounds coming out of nowhere. And there were no competing sounds because nothing else in the building could have possibly competed. So it was good. Now that brings up the subject of competing sounds. What a joy, right? You're sitting there in your living room watching your favorite movie, and some wonderful minstrel cranks up the lawnmower or weed eater, chainsaw, or leaf blower. And you can't filter it out, even 3 or 4 houses away. Or you're sitting there trying to talk to someone, and a dog is barking in the distance. And even though it's very far away, it grabs as much or more of your attention as what's going on in the room with you. And it drives you kind of bonkers. Noises seem to come from everywhere. And here's one that I know all of you autistic people can relate to. The symphonic splendor of all the competing sounds in a noisy, crowded restaurant, or even one that ain't crowded. I make it a habit to take these earplugs with me whenever I go out to eat. I hear everything. I can't filter anything out. I could be mid-sentence and an abrupt noise 100 yards away feels like an interruption, and I have to stop talking and start all over again. And if there's a bunch of noise or multiple conversations going on at once, I just shut down and don't talk. We autistic people struggle with sensory issues and definitely with sound. This is me as a kid covering up my ears because I'm not liking what I'm hearing. Almost 50 years later, I'm still doing the same thing. Now notice my big brother behind me. He's just fine, and so is my little friend over there. But I'm kind of not. Doesn't this picture seem like a perfect representation of our experience and what it's like to live as an autistic person, in a neurotypical world? Like I represent all of us autistic people, and the others in the picture represent everyone else. Isn't this how you feel in a crowded restaurant or crowded gathering of any kind? Like everything is just overloading the stew out of you, but everyone else is just having a good old time, going about their merry little way, laughing, talking, smiling. Has this ever just made you feel flawed, weak, or like you have a lesser character or lesser fortitude? Like other people try harder? Like maybe you're unkind or fussy? Yeah, right. That's crap, okay? I used to think I was inferior somehow, but I'm not, and neither are you. You're not inferior, and they're not superior. You're not weaker, and they're not stronger. No way. Let me tell you about something very interesting, something that was incredibly eye-opening, ear-opening, and mind-opening, mind-blowing, in fact. I think most of us have heard of autism simulators, where they make a video that attempts to simulate some of the sensory experiences of autistic people. And I think they can be pretty accurate. Well, guess what? I found a video that not only provides an autism simulator, but a neurotypical simulator as well. I'm not kidding. It simulates what sitting in a crowded restaurant sounds like to a neurotypical person, and what trying to have a conversation in a crowded restaurant sounds like to a neurotypical person. It was made by Scott Christian Sava, and he did a great service by making this video. I made it so that you can click on it at the end screen of this video, and there's also a link in the description. Give it a watch. You'll be glad you did. It simulates what that crowded restaurant situation would sound and feel like to you if you were not autistic, if you were neurotypical. When you watch it, you'll finally understand why things are so easy for neurotypicals in this noisy world. For them, sounds are not as loud and intense, and they can kind of pick and choose what they hear and focus on. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Can you imagine what that would be like? And in the comments for that video, there were plenty of people who wrote that they are neurotypical and that the video creator's depiction of the neurotypical experience is completely accurate. I'd really like for you to watch it and read the comments below it. One says, "I'm neurotypical and you captured our experience totally right. We're able to blur other noises that may not be as important and concentrate on the one thing we want to focus on." Now, when I read that, my first thought was, what? You can do that? That's possible for somebody? You'll understand that there's nothing wrong or bad or weak or anything else bad about you after watching this. That anybody who experiences the same kind of sensory things that you do would have the same kinds of issues that you do, even when they have an awesome character, great strength, and great capabilities like you do. If a neurotypical person spent 5 minutes in our brain in a crowded restaurant, or any other noisy situation or situation with multiple competing sounds, they would have a terrified, wide-eyed, I can't believe what I just experienced expression on their face, like they'd just gone through some terrifying LSD trip. A lot of them would be crying to their mama. And all of our lives, we've had to just sit there trying to look and be all calm and normal while experiencing what we experience. If that ain't strength, I don't know what is. They aren't any stronger than you. They just don't go through what you do. And there's nothing wrong with you because you don't want to go to some noisy, busy place. And I want you to know that. And it would be great if both they and you knew that. You know, if everyone was autistic, or if autistic people were simply the majority, our scientists would be overwhelmingly concerned with making things quieter. I mean, surely a yard tool or a yard machine doesn't have to be that loud. With all the other technology we've come up with, you better believe that we could find a way to make them quiet. And the same goes for every other invention, machine, or contraption. Again, if we were the majority, it would be a top priority to find ways to make things more quiet. Cars, airplanes, buildings, society itself, you name it. Okay, so I want to quickly mention some nice things about sound. Things that I don't think a neurotypical person could understand or experience. Our sensory experiences can be richer than the average person's. Yes, sometimes our super hearing can be a superpower. Stay with me here. Think about some of your favorite music, your favorite songs, your favorite musical instruments. Wait a minute. I'm hearing this sound coming from the direction of Indiana. It's an amen. It sounds like Sienna Price. Now that's a sensational sound too. Sienna Price, who is blind and autistic, has her own channel, and she's living proof of the sheer joy that sound can bring to an autistic person. Think about nature sounds, the birds, the sound of a breeze, the sound of running stream or a waterfall. the sound of falling rain. Or how about this one? The sound of silence. Yeah, silence has its own sound. If you're ever able to go into the woods away from everything, it's marvelous. I remember going into the woods and hearing nothing. It was exciting, thrilling. It was a wonderful sound, and I could barely contain my joy. And this is possibly my favorite, the sound of snow. Snow has a sound, and it's indescribably wonderful. It's so quiet. It's like you're in a vacuum. I love to just go outside and stand in it as it's falling. I always have. When I was a kid, I would go out in the backyard and just stand knee deep in it as it was coming down. I would just take in the whole wonderful sensory experience. I know there are sounds that are wonderful to you too, because of your wonderful autistic mind. Sounds that make your life richer. Okay, you're not flawed, you're not weak, you're not less than. You're just a minority that's wired very differently than the majority. That's all. You're really great here and here. All right, a couple of quick orders of business. If anybody's ever commented on my channel and your comment's been deleted, I'm very sorry, and it wasn't me. I don't delete comments unless they're insulting or vulgar or something like that, and I haven't had any of that. Also, if you make a comment and it doesn't get acknowledged in some way by me, then it means that for some reason I'm not able to see it, and I'm very sorry about that. I just want all of you to know I absolutely value each and every one of you. And someone else who is long overdue for a shout out is about to get one. I referenced her channel in my very first video, but I want to give a proper shout out here. I was going to wait until I had a bigger audience so that it would carry more weight. But then I figured, well, I could always give a second shout out later on. So here goes. Autistic Jenny is my favorite channel. If you enjoy any of my content, I guarantee that you will enjoy Jenny's. She is the hardest working person on YouTube, and she's always coming up with great ideas. And she's one of the most likable people you could ever meet. Her channel gave me my start when I first took part in one of her regular creator collaborations. I love the creator collaborations. They are such a great idea, and they introduce you to other autistic channel owners. And her viewers are like family, and so many of them came over to my channel. So I owe Jenny a great debt. I've always said that the quality of any group or organization is mostly determined by its head, and Jenny's viewers, her online family, are top-notch, and that's because Jenny is top-notch. I have a feeling that most of you already know about her channel, but if not, head on over there. You'll be glad you did. Hey, I sure appreciate you hanging out with me for a while. I always do. You're something else, you know that? I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you again real soon.